Hey, what's up, guys? Hope you're doing well. Sorry, the sun is blinding on my neck right now. But hey, here we are on the way to work this morning, and I want to share a story that is a little bit of an interesting story, and probably the closest thing I would have to what could be described as an out-of-body experience. Mystical, right? Creepy. I don't know if you will think that that's how you would describe this or not, but I'll just tell the story because it was a blessing in my life. Not like not voodoo stuff, all right? We're not talking dark magic, thankfully. Although, you know, that's another way to experience an out-of-body experience, but man, you don't want that in your life. All right. So, spring of freshman year, I get a text from Ryan Hookey, I'm pretty sure, the guy that I shared about recently, and he said, hey, we got one more spot in this car, we're leaving in an hour to this worship night in San Antonio, and do you want to come? And this is a Tuesday in the middle of, the school week, and we're gonna get back at like 3 a.m. Literally 3 a.m. 3:30, and I've got 20 minutes to decide whether or not they're gonna make the additional stop of picking me up, because I did not have a car my freshman year of college. And he says who's going, and it's like 4 people that were all, I think they were all life group leaders at my church. So 4 people I looked up to, and I just thought, like, if they're going, I'm going. I gotta figure out what they know. Like my whole freshman year, I'm just trying to soak up as much as possible, learn as much as possible, and I'm like, I'm not missing out on that. Get me in the room with those people, And so they pick me up, I go, I asked no questions about like this worship night at all. And at some point in this, something like 3 hour car ride to San Antonio, I am presented with, hey, do you know who we're gonna go see? And I'm like, no. They're talking about the worship leader, and they're like, check out this YouTube video. The YouTube video has since been taken down, but it was literally titled "Worst Worship Ever." That's the name of the YouTube video, and I'm like, okay, I don't know how I'm feeling right now. Like, my stomach's kind of like churning a little bit, because at this point in my life, I was very hungry. I wanted more of God, but I was not a charismaniac. I was not like, woohoo, Holy Spirit, go do stuff. Like, that wasn't where I was at, and I guess you could say yet. And anyways, the worship video is this guy named Rick Pino, and it's from like, now I know that it's from many, many, many years ago, but nonetheless, this really happened, where he's leading worship at this church, and all of a sudden this, this big beat goes on in the background. It's just kind of like, and we're like, okay, this is a little interesting. And he's just shouting from the stage. He's like, all right, guys, for this one, I need everyone to take their shoes off, all right? And while you're down there, just pull off a couple socks. He's like, all right, now take that sock and let's wave it above our heads like this, okay? Let's start spinning our socks, right? And this whole room of people is like, just doing it, except for this one guy that's like looking a little bit confused. And the vibe of this video, like this church they were going to, was very young, very hype, kind of like hype zone. So you could tell these people were like ready to just like go hard with whoever was leading worship for that week or whatever. But this was far out enough that, you know, at least a couple people in the room were like not so sure. But Rick Pino from the stage, he points this guy in the front row. He goes, "Hey, you're not spinning anything." Like, what are you doing? I told you, grab your socks and spin them over your head, okay? Because we're about to worship. And literally, he gets the whole room spinning their socks, and he starts off. He goes, "You spin me right round, Jesus, right round, like a record, Jesus, right round, round, round." And then he's like, starts yelling, "Okay, let's sing this now," you know, like, and he sings that a bunch of times. And so they show me this YouTube video in the car, right? And I'm like mortified. I'm like, oh no, like, what am I about to experience? You know, like, what in the world? And he didn't do that at the worship night in San Antonio. But that happens in the car ride. I'm thinking like, man, I want to learn, I want to grow, but also like, man, what is about to happen? Because I've never been in a room like that before, that's for sure, and I hope I'm not about to go into a room like that. Anyways, we get to the worship night. Rick Pino leads worship, and it's a normal, you know, it's a pretty normal worship set. But one of the songs that he sings, I now know is a song that he's written called "I Can Hear the Sound." And the main line of the song is, "I can hear the sound of the river coming down." And then he just says that again. And then another line he says is, "It's being poured out, it's being poured out. I can hear the sound of the river coming down. I can hear the sound." Anyways, listen to the sound, listen to the sound. So anyways, you can talk to Rick about the theology of the song and what he thinks about it, whatever. The point of this video is he starts singing that. I don't know that he's already written that song. So I'm thinking like he is hearing something right now that is heavenly. I'm thinking like he is seeing something spiritually that human eyes cannot see. I'm like, what is God doing if there's a river coming down from heaven into this sanctuary right now? That's what I'm thinking, like, during this worship set. Like, I knew that I didn't even know, you know, I knew that I hadn't been in an atmosphere like this before, but at the same time, I wasn't so offended that I was just gonna like close myself off to the experience that night. It's like I wanted to experience God, and I was cautious and hesitant, but ultimately like expectant. And so as he starts singing that, it's like faith starts rising in my heart that God wants to do something significant, and that he is doing something significant. If I had known that that was already a written song, I would not have received the same measure of faith, for sure. So anyways, he's worshiping, that's like, and so this whole, and then we go into the message, and the whole message, I'm just like, what's happening? Like, something's happening. This is a big thing, because you wouldn't just start randomly singing that unless something big was happening, right? And then the guy that was preaching is a guy named Corey Russell, who is a dangerous man of God, and he basically just shared his testimony, but his testimony is radical, crazy salvation, and then ushered into crazy evangelism and more salvations and stuff, and was just crazy what he was sharing, and so, and again, I'm just like eyes wide open, taking it all in, like, what in the world? And then we get to the, what a lot of churches would call the ministry time. I don't know how normal that is. But it's the song time after the sermon to allow people a chance to respond in prayer or in worship to anything that stood out to them from the message, anything they feel in their heart before God, you know. But for this ministry time, there was also an altar call. An altar call is when you call people up to the altar. So it's, hey, invite people, like, and it's not specific people. You're not calling them on your cell phone. It's just, hey, if anyone in the room wants blank, like, just invite you to come to the front and we want to pray for you, or just come worship up at the front. Sometimes altar calls are also associated with salvation prayers, like, hey, if anyone wants to give their life to Jesus, come up to the front. But anyway, so we're in ministry time, right? The post-sermon worship time. And then they give an altar call. I don't remember what the altar call was for, but it was probably like, if you're spiritually hungry for more of God in your life, you know, pretty generic, not a specific type of thing. Just come worship up at the front. And I'm like, I'm gonna go up to the front because I've been on the edge of my seat this whole time. Like, I want more of God and what's God doing, right? And during that ministry time, some people were receiving prayer, but for the most part, it was just people worshiping kind of in the space between the stage and the chairs. And the only person that was praying for anyone was Corey Russell. So there's probably 100 people at least up at the front. He's not going to pray for all of them. They're not like in a line to him. They're just doing their own thing, worshiping, whatever. And he's kind of making his way around, praying for whoever he feels led to pray for, I suppose. He's also, anyways, we don't have to get into all of it, but well, I'll go ahead and share it. Like, a couple things were standing out to me, standing out, that I noticed that I had not experienced before, not witnessed before, I should say. One of them is, turns out a fairly common, not that common, but not a never before seen, kind of charismaniac tactic, which is to blow in the microphone. You know, Lord, would you move in this place? Do it. You know, prayers like that. So anyways, I'm like, oh, he's blowing in the microphone. All right. I'm like trying not to be distracted by that as I try to worship because I'm hungry, you know. And then also as he's praying for people, I'm noticing that most of the people that he's praying for, pretty soon after he prays for them, are basically getting clocked out. Like falling down, falling backwards, you know, losing stability, going to the ground, and then spending some time on the ground. And I'm like, don't know what that is. But again, there's a river coming down that the worship leader saw. And I'm like, God's doing, you know, like, I wasn't super guarded. Like, this is just evil. This is terrible. This is so theatrical, whatever. I was like, no, there's something happening. And anyways, I'm worshiping and I'm wondering, like, is he going to pray for me? And then I'm also wondering, like, what am I going to experience? Because I'm not about to, like, fake it. You know, I'm not going to just, like, fly backwards or, you know, I'm open to that being real, but only if God makes it clear. You know, like, if he knocks me out, then I guess that'll happen. That's kind of what I was thinking at the time. But I was also like, man, I want him to pray for me, I think, because this dude is an anointed minister. And long story short, he does pray for me. He probably prayed for 20 people total, something like that. So, hey, not the best odds, but he came up to me. And one thing that was actually unique also is most of the people that he prayed for, this might not matter to you at all. I actually haven't thought about this in a very long time. But he prayed like from a distance, or he like just kind of put his hand in their direction, or maybe he put his hand on their shoulder. But for a lot of them, he was just kind of like kind of pointing at that person or standing in front of that person, and just like without actually touching them, just kind of like praying whatever he was praying. I couldn't hear all his prayers. I'm just saying physically that's what he was doing. When he came to me, he like presses his hand on my forehead. And so at the time I thought, like, why did he do that, pretty much? And I think deep down I was like, what did he see in me? You know, or like, is there something unique about what God's trying to do in me that he would approach it with just more intentionality? But he's not trying to push me over. Anyways, he's just like pressing on my forehead, and he prays. I don't remember what he prays. Honestly, he might not have prayed an English prayer, for all I know. All I know is what I experienced when he, I don't know if it was like the moment that he put his hand on my forehead, but basically what I experienced is it felt like my spirit was hovering over my body, is the best way I can describe it. It's like I was looking down on me, watching me receive prayer. But it was like my spirit it was almost like it wanted to go to heaven, but not like I wanted to die or anything like that. But it's just like, I'm praying, just reaching out, like, God, I want to know you. And it's almost like this kind of experience that I had was almost like another mental image or another picture of that type of, just like, man, can I just get there? Can I just know you more? Can I just see you more clearly? And he prayed for me, and I think I continued in that state for another minute or two after the prayer. It was probably 5 minutes-ish total, where I felt like I'm outside of my body, and myself, my mind is with the spirit thing that's hovering, not with my body. And I don't know what that was, but I remember being incredibly impacted, to the point where, after the worship night, we go eat dinner at Whataburger. We drive 3 hours home, and I'm silent. Like, the drive there, we're all chatting, we're cracking up. The drive home, everyone's chatting, cracking up, or just sharing what they learned or whatever. I'm just silent, because I'm like, what just happened? I think at Whataburger, one of the people in the car eventually was like, so Jeremy, like, what's up? Because I was apparently noticeably stirred or shaken up, or just noticeably silent. And I was like, I don't know. And I still don't really know, but that was a really defining experience for me that exposed me to more in terms of kind of the charismatic side of Christianity than I'd ever been exposed to. But more importantly, it just did something inside of me that was like, it was kind of just like wind in my sails, related to this thought of like, there's got to be more to the Christian experience, to how much I know God, and what he wants to do in my life and in the world and stuff. And so that was it was a unique night. They actually called that worship night Big Night. So thanks for hosting Big Night in San Antonio, whatever church it was that did that, and for bringing in the worst worship ever guy and this crazy man named Corey Russell, who is still a crazy man, and Rick Pino is still a crazy man. in the best way. Obviously, I view them endearingly because of that first experience I had where God really just touched my heart in a unique way. So, hey, let me know. You ever had something like that before? Would you call that an out-of-body experience? If not, then I haven't experienced one yet, because that's the closest thing for me. Although there are many others out there, you know, but this is my YouTube channel, so here we are. Hope y'all are encouraged. I can't say for sure if you are, but hey, at the very least, like, I didn't make that story up. You know, like, I really did experience something, and it really has led to a more full and radical surrender to God and devotion and zeal for the things of Him than I was living before. And it's still going. Still going strong, guys. 28 years old. 300 more years to go. Just kidding. I'm trying to live till 110, but we'll see. Jesus might come back before then, so watch out. That's all I got for y'all today. Life is worship. God is love.